The same faces keep appearing in your life. Different names, different bodies, but somehow, the same emotional blueprint, the same disappointments, the same betrayals, the same hollow feeling when they leave. You tell yourself it's bad luck, that you're just attracted to the wrong type. But what if the truth is darker? What if every toxic person you've ever loved was actually a messenger, sent by the parts of yourself you refuse to see? What if the real reason you keep attracting the wrong people isn't about them at all? What if it's about the conversation you've been avoiding with your own shadow? There was a psychiatrist who spent his life mapping the hidden architecture of the human psyche. Carl Jung didn't just study the mind. He descended into it, like an explorer entering an unmapped cave system where every shadow could swallow you whole. He discovered something that would haunt his patients for the rest of their lives. We don't see people as they are. We see them through the lens of our own unconscious darkness. Every person you're drawn to, every lover who breaks you, every friend who betrays you, they're not random. They're precise reflections of the wounds you carry but won't acknowledge. Think about the last person who truly hurt you, the one whose name still makes your chest tighten. Jung would say they didn't just happen to you. You summoned them, not consciously, not deliberately, but through an invisible magnetism that operates below the threshold of awareness. This is the law of projection. The unconscious mind cannot tolerate its own contents, so it casts them outward, painting other people with the colors of our own internal landscape. The rage you won't admit to feeling, you'll find it in a partner who screams. The abandonment you experienced as a child, you'll be mysteriously drawn to people who always have one foot out the door. We think we're choosing partners, but really, we're choosing mirrors. Mirrors that show us the faces we've hidden in our own basement. And those mirrors will keep appearing, relationship after relationship, until we finally understand what we're being shown. But to understand that, we need to descend into the place where these patterns are born, into the shadow itself. That's where we go next. Jung called it the shadow, that collection of traits, desires, and wounds we've banished from conscious awareness. Everything you were taught was unacceptable. Everything that threatened your survival as a child. Everything that would have made your parents withdraw their love. You buried it all. But burial is not death. The shadow doesn't disappear when you deny it. It grows stronger in the dark, developing its own agenda, its own hunger. And its primary hunger is to be seen. So it does what any intelligent force would do. It recruits others to play out its story. That's why you keep meeting the same person in different bodies. The narcissist who mirrors your own hidden grandiosity. The emotional vampire who reflects your own unacknowledged neediness. The cold, distant lover who embodies the walls you've built around your own heart. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Every toxic pattern in your relationships is a conversation you're having with yourself. But instead of words, you're using people. Instead of internal dialogue, you're creating external drama. The person who ghosts you isn't just triggering your abandonment issues. They're showing you exactly where you've abandoned yourself. This is why healing feels impossible when you're focused on changing your type. You can swear off emotionally unavailable partners, join dating apps with better algorithms, read of every relationship book on the shelf. But if the projection remains unconscious, you'll find new ways to recreate the same story. The details change. The ending doesn't. There's a man I knew who spent 15 years in a cycle of betrayal. Every woman he loved eventually cheated. He saw himself as cursed, as simply having bad judgment. But when he finally looked deeper, he discovered something chilling. He had never forgiven his mother for her emotional affairs, the way she would psychologically abandon the family for her fantasies and obsessions. His unconscious had been seeking that original wound in every relationship, drawn to women who carried that same potential for betrayal, like a dormant virus. Not because he wanted to be hurt again, but because some part of him was still trying to resolve that first abandonment, still trying to rewrite the ending. The shadow doesn't just attract darkness from others, it also repels the light. The person who could actually love you in a healthy way feels boring, invisible, almost non-existent to your psyche. They don't activate your wounds, so they don't feel real. They don't speak the language of your trauma, so you can't hear them. This is the tragedy Jung witnessed in patient after patient. We're magnetically drawn to what hurts us and mysteriously blind to what could heal us. The very people who could break our patterns remain invisible, while those who confirm our worst beliefs about ourselves shine like beacons in the dark. But here's where it gets even darker. The shadow isn't just personal, it's inherited. The wounds you carry often predate your birth. They were passed down through generations, like psychological DNA, each parent projecting their unhealed pain onto their children, who then project it onto theirs. That attraction you feel to chaos. It might be your grandmother's unprocessed grief. That fear of intimacy could be your father's inherited shame. You're not just dealing with your own shadow. You're the walking repository of your entire lineage's denied pain. Jung saw this generational shadow in the dreams of his patients, the same symbols appearing across family lines, the same fears manifesting in different forms. A daughter terrified of abandonment, whose mother was terrified of engulfment, both running from the same original wound, just in opposite directions. The shadow operates like a psychological virus, mutating as it passes from one generation to the next, always finding new hosts, new expressions, new ways to perpetuate its existence. And it will continue this transmission until someone in the lineage finally says, "Enough." Until someone turns to face what everyone before them fled from. But the shadow has one more trick, one more way it keeps you trapped in repetition. It convinces you that you're the victim, that these patterns are happening to you rather than through you. This victim identity becomes another layer of shadow, the part of you that needs to be wounded to feel real, that finds a strange comfort in familiar pain. So how do you break the cycle? How do you stop the endless repetition of the same relational nightmare? Jung's answer was simple in theory, brutal in practice. You have to turn toward what you've spent your whole life running from. You have to make the unconscious conscious. This means sitting with the uncomfortable truth that the people who hurt you were showing you something about yourself. Not that you deserved the pain, but that you were unconsciously participating in its creation. Every projection is a breadcrumb leading back to your own psyche. Start by looking at the patterns. What specific flavor of unavailability do you keep encountering? What particular brand of emotional violence keeps finding you? These aren't random. They're precise. They're surgical. They're designed to trigger the exact wounds you need to heal. Then comes the harder work, feeling what you've been projecting. If you keep attracting anger, where is your own rage hiding? If you keep finding coldness, where have you frozen your own heart? The shadow only projects what it can't contain. So whatever you're seeing out there, you're carrying in here. This isn't about blame. It's about reclaiming your projections, taking back the parts of yourself you've scattered across other people's faces. When you can hold your own darkness without needing someone else to act it out, the compulsion breaks. The pattern dissolves. The moment you truly see your shadow, you stop being its puppet. You might still feel the old attractions, but now you recognize them for what they are. Not destiny, but history trying to repeat itself. Not fate, but an unconscious pattern begging to be made conscious. Jung understood that this work is terrifying because it requires admitting that you've been complicit in your own suffering. That on some level, you've been choosing the pain because it's familiar, because it confirms what you already believe about yourself, because it allows you to stay in the known hell rather than risk the unknown heaven. Jung believed we're all walking around in a state of possession, possessed not by demons, but by the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. Every toxic relationship is an exorcism waiting to happen. Every painful pattern is a shadow begging to be integrated. The people you attract will keep showing you the same message until you're ready to receive it. They're not your enemies. They're your unconscious, dressed up in human form, trying desperately to get your attention. The next time you feel that familiar pull towards someone who carries the scent of your old wounds, pause. Ask yourself, what is my shadow trying to show me through this person? What part of myself am I about to project onto their face? Because the truth is, you'll keep meeting your shadow in others until you finally agree to meet it in yourself. You'll keep attracting the wrong people until you realize they were never wrong. They were precise. They were exactly what your unconscious ordered. The question isn't why you keep meeting the wrong people. The question is, what part of yourself are you finally ready to meet? And perhaps the deeper question, are you brave enough to love what you find there?